I am really excited about today's looks that I'm going to be creating. And I'm not going to lie, it did take some practice because this one is a little on the messier side. So the color that is inspiring this look for today is from my Profusion Emeralds palette. I use this quite a bit, and it is this dark metallic glittery green called Galaxy. When dealing with glitters, I really don't use them very often, and I did have to try this out a couple of times because this palette I love to use, and most of the colors, you know, blend very, very well together. But I did take some liberties, and some of it went sideways and got a little on the muddier side. So I think I figured out how to prevent that, as well as just working with glitters. If you're anything like me, I love mattes and I love shimmers and even foils. Foils I like a lot better than glitters, but you do want to be able to work with them on occasion. So I've already prepped my eyes with eye primer, but what I'm going to do is go over it with just a nice light wash of a color that's basically my shade, but a little bit lighter. And I'm going to show you two different ways, two different looks with the same eyeshadow colors. And as usual for me, I always start with my eyes just because of any fallout, and it's just basically been my routine. But with using these glitters, you definitely want to prepare for fallout because there is some. So let me pull my hair back really quick and get the party started. And I also like to just challenge myself, pick a color that maybe is not something I'm used to, not something that I'm comfortable with, and try to make a good look out of it. So you want to start off with the transition shade. Regardless of what colors you're using, you really want to provide that gradient. And I still stick with relatively neutral colors. And even though we're using this really dark green, I'm never going to blend it smoothly out enough to make it look nice and blended on the brow. So I am using the transition shade in this palette because it does go with the green. They're selected to work together. I used a different color and it did come out muddy. So you might want to keep that in mind when you're trying out colors. If they provide a transition shade, you might want to stick with that. So I'm going to go ahead and start just applying that in the crease. And on the most part, most of this is going to be covered up. But the job that this has is creating between here and my brow, that gradient. And this is going to be a little bit more of a, I know I always say it, a more of a dramatic look, but because of the glitter, and I am going to match it with a glittery lip as well. So this might be something that, you know, maybe for a holiday party or whatever, or just going out, you know. Another thing to do to be prepared for, especially this with the glitters and fallout, is make sure that everything under your eye is pretty swept, you know, melted in, like your sunscreen and your eye creams and everything else, that you don't really have anything built up there, so that it's, I mean, you should do that anyways before adding your concealer and everything, but especially in this case because it does kind of get messy, so it's going to make the cleanup a little bit easier. So now what I am going to do, I've got that on. one thing that I discovered is that this color, even though it's that dark on my finger when I rub it in, it's relatively, I know it looks darker on here, it's relatively sheen. This color you can actually go over another color and it just adds a little bit of a glimmer. So it's actually a very sheen color. It's not that pigmented. So if you're wanting that color to actually come out and pop, what you want to do is add a black, any black, and then putting this over it is going to make it stand out like what you see in the palette. So I kind of discovered that along the way. What I'm going to do is I am going to create my my cat eye eyeliner. And normally I do my eyeshadow first, but I'm actually going to be using this to help build up that color. So what I do, I know you guys, if you've seen any of my other tutorials, you know that I like to use an eyeshadow. And then I'm going up like this in this angle. And then I'm pushing the color this way, because that is where I'm going to set the dark color in this look. And when using this black, I really do need to tap it off as well, because if I don't, there is a lot of fallout as well, just with this black shadow. So tapping your brushes is a good idea. So now I'm going to go ahead and add the color. Another thing to consider when you're using the glitters is that you want to use, I prefer using my fingers. It will pack on easier, and sometimes with particular shadows, if you use a brush, you might be brushing off the glitter, and then you just end up, this comes out very dark looking, like just basically a black. So if I want that metallic green sparkle, I find it best to use my finger and really just pack it in there. Okay, so now I take just a nice clean smaller blending brush and go in and just kind of blend this a little bit. I'm working it more in the crease and on this side. I don't really want to carry it over any more than that. Then I go back and take the transition shade and just go over everything a little bit more, blending it kind of more smoothly together. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is take my concealer and do a cut crease on this. I find this a lot more effective than just trying to put on lighter shadows. So this really does lighten the whole area. Okay, then I'm going to take this flat brush and work the concealer all the way into that crease to there. And don't worry about your eyeshadow or your eyeliner, because we're going to go back and touch that up anyways. The reason I added it on first is just to add the intensity of that green. Next, I am going to take the lightest color here. And again, using my finger. These eyeshadows I absolutely love. They're very, very pigmented. And when you apply it with your finger, they come out looking like foils. I mean, there's a lot of color payout. And then I just kind of tap it here. And I'm just going to clean up that, making sure that we don't have any of the lighter color in that crease line. Now I'm going to go back with the Galaxy and deepen that corner, but then I'm also going to pull it more into the center, and you'll see this gradient effect. So even though I'm using just the two eyeshadows on the lid, it comes out looking very gradient and like there's three different colors. And you just kind of have to work with it, tweak it, see if you need to add a little bit more of the darker edge, the lighter edge, smoothing out the transition shade until you feel like it's right. I'm going to go ahead and just go back in here and brighten this up a little bit with the initial powder that I put on my lids. Brighten that up a little bit. And now you can go in with a highlighter shade and just add it right below the highest peak of your eyebrow. Just right there. And then a little in the corner. Now I'm going to go back with the eyeliner. And then just intensify it a little bit. Now I always go to about midway with my eyeshadow, and then I'll follow it up with some liquid eyeliner. And this has a little bit of metallic fleck in it, which goes great with this look. So what I like to do is finish it off in the front because I can get a lot closer with a liquid liner, and then just bring this up to a nice fine point. You barely even see it, but I like doing that. And so that eye is ready to go. Now let's go to this eye, and we're going to basically do the same thing, adding that green onto that darkened corner. But I'm going to do a halo eye, and so in doing that, you also want to darken this corner. Now I'm going to go in with the Galaxy. And let me show you what happens when you apply it with a brush. I put it on there and it doesn't look any different than the black. Maybe a little shimmer, but not as much. So if I add it with my finger, you can see that there's a lot more payout of the green. And I'm not gonna lie, this is messy. This is messy. Now I'm going to go back to my concealer. And just clean this area up a little bit, because I am going to add the brighter color right there, and so you want it to stand out. And even though I left a gap there, it got kind of covered up a little bit. Now I am going to have to use a brush to do this, but when you do a halo eye, you kind of want to connect these two colors together just slightly. So I'm taking that the galaxy color and just kind of working it in there and working it into the crease. And you don't have to do it too much. Now I'm going to go ahead and take the transition shade and deepen that and kind of just meld those colors together a little bit. Then again, I want to take that first shadow just to kind of brighten up that right under my brow a little bit. And you do a little bit more tweaking. You want to make sure that you've got everything in the correct quantities and blend it out since we're using darker colors. And it does take some practice. I mean, like I said, I had to test this out a couple of times. Okay, so now that that center is done, I am going to again take that very light color and put that in the center. And then what I'm going to do is take the galaxy again and just do this on the side so it's more of a gradient. And then I'm going to go ahead and just deepen up that corner. And then go ahead and just add the highlighter at that highest point. In the corner, and then touch up the eyeliner again. Now I'm going to go put on my eyelashes and I will be right back. Okay, I'm back. So now I am going to go ahead and do my face makeup before I finish off my eyes. And so I am doing my concealer. And this is basically the same way I always do, is strategically placing it on the darker parts under my eye bags. And by pressing in like this, it really is working it into the skin, putting it exactly where I need it, as well as now that it's properly placed, I can then start removing it. So I just swipe it on my towel as I'm working the product in. Then I go in with my finger. And I'm doing my foundation, getting a nice even layer. And I really do like to focus my foundation kind of more in the center of my face. You want to put it where you need it most initially, and then just basically blending it out. But kind of patting it and pressing it in. Finish it off with a damp blending sponge. And I go ahead with my finger and then just tap away here in case there's anything settling in. And then with my setting powder, I just pat it in there and then sweep the excess away. Now I am using the same contour, the Physicians, what is it? Sculpting bronzer. Now what I'm going to use is my Profusions blush palette, and this is blush 1. And with this look, I am going to go ahead and go for the peach shade. As we've got 2 matte shades here, a peach and then a pink. Then we've got these 2, and they're very glittery as well. And you can use them as well as blush, but what I like to do is use them as more of a blush topper. And then we've got the 2 highlights here. And so there's a peach option as well as a more of a pink option. So I'm gonna go with the peach because I think that would look really good with this eye look. And so I am taking this one here. And then I'm going to take this color here as the topper. And I'm using the same brush and basically going just right above kind of where my blush is, as well as a little bit on the highlight, because it's so shimmery you can use this as a highlighter as well. And for good measure, I will go ahead and add this as the highlighter just to show you. But it does give me a lot just with using that. So I'm just going to use a real little bit. There we go. Then I'm going to take my foundation brush and just do a little bit of cleanup. And then just finish it off with some powder. And this also really does help blend and soften the edges of everything. All right, so now for the under eyes. I really think it's a good idea to always keep experimenting. And I do that. But I also know kind of what works for me and what doesn't. So a lot of times you'll see these looks where they will really add the darkness all under here. And I try it, it just doesn't look good on me. So if I do have a dramatic eye, I still try to keep that bottom the bottom lash line on the lighter side. So by still kind of having a more dramatic eye, I am going to, I'll do it on one side and then not on the other, and I'll kind of show you what I'm talking about here. I just go right in the corner there, about a third of the way. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is use my handy dandy bronzer. I love this bronzer pencil. It's from NYX. And I go ahead and do the waterline as well as just kind of tap along the bottom. Now on this side, I am not going to add a color. I'm not going to deepen this part. So what I'm just going to do is use the bronze. And leave it like that. And that way it's just kind of really light. The eye is still defined, but it's just lighter. And I will show you a video, I think, of why I don't do certain things. Another thing that I do not really do very often is put mascara on my lower lashes. The reason is they always come out looking like spider legs on me, and I just don't like the look. Now if it's super dramatic and I'm wearing a lot of stuff underneath, then yeah, I can get away with it. Or you know, sometimes I will do it, but I really kind of try to just, let me show you what I'm talking about. I'll do the lashes like here. So to me, it seems like again, it just kind of closes up my eye. So one thing I will do when I am wearing this look is try to make sure that I don't have as much product on the ends. So see how this eye kind of has a little bit of a heavier look. This one is a little bit on the more open, brighter side. So that's kind of why I generally don't put too much underneath that eye. Let's move on to lips. And with this, again, I'm going to use a little bit of my concealer. And you're probably wondering why. So since I've got a lot more of a dramatic eye, I want my mouth to be, I'm still going to use glitter, but I'm going to use a nude, big surprise, but a lot lighter of one. And so my lips, the color that I'm going to be using is actually lighter than my lips. And now I'm going to go ahead and line it. And by adding concealer, that's kind of my little trick to be able to wear the lighter nudes and get that effect. Because if I put that color on my lips, it would not, it would come out darker. And then this one is from Femme Couture, and it's called Lip Paint Mod Metal. And this you can see from space. So a little goes a long way. So thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day.